Although it draws from past traditions on American political right and center, the national conservative populist movement in the United States is still a fairly new ideological phenomenon. For that reason, it is important to look to successful movements overseas, in Europe, Latin America, and other places for inspiration. We're glad that many representatives of these successful movements are joining us today, both on stage and in the audience. With that said, I'd like to now introduce our first panel today. We have Tobias Andersson, an MEP for the Sweden Democrats, the currently top polling political party in Sweden, and the head of the party's youth wing, all the way to the right of me. And we also have Mr. Eduardo Bolsonaro, member of the Brazilian Congress and the Foreign Affairs Committee, and the son of Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro. And we also have Paolo Borchia, MEP of Salvini's League Party.
Hi, everybody.
Along with our grassroots director, Shane Trejo, who is also a journalist for Big League Politics and a contributor on the One American News Network, who will be moderating today. So please join me in welcoming them.
We'd like to get right into this by giving each man just a couple minutes to state, give their introduction and what they're doing in their respective country. Let's start with Paolo.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon to everybody. I hope it's afternoon because my jet lag is not very good in these days. Currently Lega is the first party in Italy according polls and according the public opinion feeding. Now we are in a position because until last year we had a strange political experience in government with left-wing populist movement, 5 stars. It was not so easy because we started with 17% of members in the chamber. 5 stars had 34. So. In 1 year, we were able to cut their consensus and to double our consensus. They weren't very happy about this situation, and so they put us in a condition to not to be able to keep promises with our electors. And notably, in Italy, we're very committed in a federal reform of the state. We're very committed in developing infrastructure, in reforming justice. But as our party government weren't able to keep promises, we decided to. Mr. Salvini decided to broke this experience. And frankly speaking, I shared his assessment because. I think that the main purpose of politics is not to be at government, but to give solutions to our people. For doing that, you should be at government, but if you're not in the condition, it's better to give up. And so now we are facing another weird government, 5 stars movement and Democratic Party. So it's a leftist coalition. People are not happy about that. Polls are very bad for those parties, and that's why they are trying to stay at government in any case at any cost.
Okay, now Eduardo.
Yeah, first thankful about the opportunity to be here talking with you. It's a pleasure to me to talk here outside of Brazil and bring to you a little bit about the changes that are happening in Brazil. We were used for decades with socialism system, and in the end of the day, they were stealing people's money and bringing to Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, and all the other countries. And for example, we built a port of around $300 million in Cuba called Mario Port, and it was made and using the money of a public bank called BNDES, which is Brazilians' money, people's money. And now we are ending with that. That's why they are so mad. That's why, for example, we are with very nice numbers about invasions of farmers. In Brazil, we had a group called, how can I say, MST, like out of land movement, and they're used to invade lands of the farmers, and they are used to do that a lot. So all the presidents, usually they have hundreds of invasions during the governments. In our first year, we had only 5. Why? Because they don't have money anymore. We don't give money to non-governmental organizations. And you have other things that we are doing very good. I will keep talking about it, about the reduce of 20% of the number of the murders, about the flexibilization to you buy a gun in a store. And this is now what we are doing in Brazil. We just don't care about the politically correct. We are over this step. We debated a lot. Now we are in the phase of execution. We had 30 years for the socialists, and they proved that Brazil was following the same way of Venezuela. And we want something different. We want to be closer of US, Israel, Japan, Poland, Hungary, and not anymore with countries as Cuba or Venezuela. So that's why they attack so much us, especially because in Brazil you have almost all of the medias, or better, a big part of the medias, they're made in of leftists. So it doesn't matter what the president does. It's the same here with CNN. You're used to that. We have our CNN. But imagine how bad it is where in a place where you don't have even a Fox News to talk good things about what you're doing. So this is the reality of Brazil. And that's why I have to be very thankful with those guys there in the back. Please stand up, the guys from Direita Minas. Alan dos Santos, Terça Livre. Thank you. They don't look like, but you have a state congressman, you have a guy from independent media, and you have a federal congressman there that a couple of years ago it was like regular people with a smartphone, internet, and working for the best of their countries. So thanks to help us, and we are together in this battlefield for sure.
Absolutely. Tobias?
Thank you so much. So, like mentioned, my name is Tobias Andersson. I'm 23 years old and a member of the Swedish Riksdag, as we call it, the Swedish Parliament or your Congress. I was elected 2018 to the Swedish Parliament, and in Parliament I work with trade and business related issues for the Sweden Democrats. And I'm also a member of the party board and the president of the youth wing. So in the Swedish Parliament, the Sweden Democrats are not the equivalent of the American Democrats, and that's an important note. So before you start throwing your bottles of water or whatever, I'd like to have that said. So the Sweden Democrats are a socially conservative party with a nationalistic viewpoint. And having a nationalistic viewpoint in Sweden is an obstacle. It's something that we've heard so many bad things being called about. It's something that has really held us back throughout the years. It's something that everyone from the establishment, from the other parties, from journalists and so on has been doing their best to make sure that we would step back from. But we have refused to do that. Instead, we made sure to put the agenda towards our issues. And we got into Parliament 2010 at 6%. The last election we ended up around 18, and now we're polling around 25. So at the moment we're the biggest party in Swedish polls. There's 8 parties in Parliament, and we're the biggest one and actually the only conservative and nationalistic one. And I'm honored to be here to speak today. I'm looking forward for this panel discussion.
Awesome. Well, I'll get right into the questions. First question, understand, there's a pretty strong far-left foothold in all of your countries. As the far-left grows in the United States, you're getting pushed back that the Republican Party needs to go in a more centrist direction. Our politics should go in a centrist direction. We see in your countries, people are receptive to the populist, nationalist movements rather than the establishment right. So why do you think it's necessary to go in the more populist, nationalist direction versus the more centrist direction of appeasing the left as they rise? Feel free to chime in as you wish.
Well, I can start then. Well, in Sweden we've had throughout the years mainly centrist governments. Some of them have been led by the Social Democrats, some by the liberal parties and so on, and all of them has basically failed. All of them has been very unsuccessful with keeping our borders secured, with keeping the criminal statistics down, with helping out those who suffer from criminal acts and so on, keeping our welfare state intact. So right now, the leftist party, which used to be the Communist Party in Sweden, is on the rise, as well as the Sweden Democrats on the other side. And I would say that voters today feel betrayed by all parties in the middle, or whatever you want to call it, and they are searching for explanations and for answers at both political ends. And in this this sense, the Sweden Democrats do not feel that the best way would be to go in a more centrist way, because that would most likely lower the trust in us as a party. Right now, the voters feel that the other parties has betrayed us and they're looking for other answers, and we are the party that are able to put those forward and have the trust in doing that. So I think it's the right thing to do to keep it as a conservative and nationalistic party.
Absolutely. Either you would like to weigh in?
In Brazil, we have, like all the countries, the power became from the people. And like Ronald Reagan said, like, we the people, it's not, we don't have to ask the government for things. Like, the government they have to do what we want. And the problem is, when you have leftists using United Nations to trespass the Congress, to who you are going to complain when you're going to complain about any kind of policy. I'll do an example. United Nations told to all the countries that we must have a kind of arrangement hiring. Okay, so in Brazil, what we made, not the Congress, not the president, but a judicial institute. They created a thing where when they arrest someone committing a crime, he has in 24 hours to have a meeting with a judge. In this meeting, it's only the criminal and the judge. The cop is outside of this meeting. And it served to ask for the criminal if he was tortured, or if the cops was cool with him, if the cops were polite with him. So in this opportunity, what happens, the criminal said, no, the cops tortured me. So usually, I can tell you, like, a big part of the criminals that we arrest in Brazil, before 24 hours in prison, they go back to the streets. So that's why, this is only one example, that's why the crimes in Brazil was hiring that much. If you follow the laws is always getting the criminals more comfortable to commit their crimes. And in this case, I ask you, where the regular the workers are going to complain, for who they are going to complain it, if it was the United Nations that created that? You know what I mean? We need at least a structure that you can do mistakes, and sometimes you fix these mistakes. But you can't do that when you have the United Nations ruling the rest of the world. That's why in the last year, President Bolsonaro went to the United Nations Assembly and remembered that why the United Nations was created. It was created after the Second World War to keep the peace, not to rule the rest of the world. I want to be Brazilian. I like to eat rice and beans. I have my founding fathers, José Bonifácio, Dom Pedro I, and all the others, my history, my identity. I love Argentina. I went several times to Argentina. I love the meat in Argentina, do snowboard in Bariloche. But we don't have, it's not necessary you have the same law. This is something like, it's not new. If you look to the history, even to the Bible, we have a lot of parts of the Bible that they say about people trying to have a universal government, but it's not going to work because we are the people and we don't want that. That's why also Brexit was a success. And first, they make jokes with us. Then they start to respect us. Then they attack us. So if they are laughing about you because you're small nowadays, don't care about it. Just keep going. If you are doing the right thing, just keep going. And don't care about it. One day, you're going to smile. As yesterday we saw at that dinner, Nigel Farage smiling, talking about the Brexit. And I don't know if you had the chance to saw his last speech in the European Parliament. If you have the chance, go on YouTube and watch that. It was just amazing.
Absolutely. Paolo?
Well, Eduardo, you mentioned the European Parliament, and well, in Italy we are not living nice weeks in this period because we are facing the coronavirus crisis. And well, yesterday I was thinking that the president of the European Parliament some weeks ago he was talking about sovereignist and the populist movements. and he was talking about our movements as virus to be put on a cordon sanitaire. It means to put in a corner and to avoid to have any position. And now with this coronavirus crisis, I realized that those words were very inadequate, very violent, and that's the modern left wing. For example, in Italy, they are perfectly aware that they won't win elections anymore for the next years. And that's why they are trying to keep the power in a different way. It means they are trying to elect the president of the republic. In Italy, the president of the republic, in theory, has only a guarantee role. But especially in those months, we are realizing that it's a huge power, because all the nations would like to have new elections, but only the president of the republic can call for new elections. That's why it's strategic for left wing to have a leftist president of the republic elected by them, by this the current parliament. The current parliament is a minority in the country. The country is not happy anymore with this parliament. And then, left wing is trying to rule the country, for example, appointing managers of the big society owned by the states, and it's a sort of soft power that avoided to face with the democratic way. That's the situation in Italy.
Absolutely. And next question is about political correctness. Political correctness is like a plague in our society. We're having a really hard time fighting it. It seems like they are, the forces of the left are gaining on us, unfortunately. So what can we do? What has been done in your country to push back against political correctness? And what do you think we should adopt here in America to fight back against it?
Have fun! It's so fun to fight back against fake news. Don't you have fun doing that? Doing memes?
Yeah.
Don't tell me that you don't do memes. You know you do memes. But this is so ridiculous that in Brazil we even have in the Congress a commission taking care to, they say investigation, sorry, but investigate the guys who are doing memes. When you fight back against big guys as CNN or Globo in Brazil or Folha de São Paulo, they do these kind of things because they're very, very well connected with guys inside of the Congress or people with a lot of power. But we have to fight back exposing. This is the way. This is the way. And keep the internet free. They are crazy. They always use nice words to their mean targets. For example, they want to control the internet. They say in Brazil that they want a law to democratize internet. Oh, bring democracy to internet. What a grateful thing. Let's go to do that. And then they're putting something to tell you, no, you can't post this. No, this is not okay. That's even worse situation that we face nowadays, because conservative usually we are blocked in Twitter and Instagram or Facebook. For sure it happened. I don't even know these guys, but for sure in their countries or even themselves already felt it in the social media. So I think this is the best thing that we have to do, and occupy spaces. When you have when you have the chance to debate, to show arguments, when you are doing the right thing, you don't have to fear debates. You have to go there, debate against them, and show how ridiculous they are. And usually in this kind of situation, what they do, they try to label you. If you look, happened with Trump, happened with Bolsonaro, happened with Salvini for sure, Viktor Orban, and all the other guys, like they are fascist, nazist, xenophobic, homophobic, against poor, against women, against black, against everybody. But at the end of the day, the people, sometimes even they don't tell you that, they don't go to the social media, tell it publicly, but they agree with you. You know the phenomenon called silent vote, huh? It happened in Brazil too. That's why in Brazil, after so many debates, after so many times going to the press, talking what people never had the courage to talk, Jair Bolsonaro got elected with 57 million votes, spending much less than $1 million during his campaign. And in his campaign, he was stabbed for something that people usually don't say. He was stabbed by a guy that is a former member of the Socialist Liberty Party, which it is pretty much the same way to think of Bernie Sanders that you have here, like extreme left. This is something that you have to notice. Why? Because if you don't do that, they're going to say that we are the authoritarians, we are the dictatorship. When nowadays in Brazil, you don't have no one in the prison because his political opinion. We don't close any kind of press, even the fake news press. They're all open, doing their, shit work. And the same guys that blame us, talking that we have kind of authoritarianism, they do not blame Maduro, for example. This is very clear. Then you can see, like, man, I have two options. Do what is right, or go back home and say yes to this kind of people. And we are not going to do that. This is our lives. We don't want to, in our life, we don't want to have only a pleasure life. Everybody wants to be someone. Everybody knows that we have our paper in the society. And the paper in our society now is to bring change, not only to US, but also to Brazil, and hope soon to European Union with those guys here that for sure are young leaders.
Absolutely. I'm going to move on to the final question of the panel. Thank you guys for coming today. And this is about free market capitalism. That's kind of the focus of the Republican Party in this day and age. And but the problem is the social issues and the cultural issues are often lost and not focused on. So what do you think the importance of the cultural issues are and the social issues, and particularly related to gender identity and what's going on there? Why do you think it's important that we should focus on that in the United States? Tobias?
Well, the obvious reason is because the voters want you to focus on that. I was actually a year ago in a meeting with Michael Barnier, the chief negotiator for the European Commission with Brexit. And he was holding a meeting in Sweden, and I asked him, like, so you don't want more Brexits in Europe, you don't want that. So what's your solution to making sure that that doesn't happen? And he takes up some statistics, and he says, this is the European economies if Great Britain stays in the European Union. And this is if Great Britain leaves the European Union. And obviously the economy to some extent was better, according to his statistics, if Great Britain would stay within the European Union. And he said, if we just make sure that people understand these statistics, that the economy will improve if Great Britain stays, they will understand. And I was like, for God's sake, you've been doing this for a year or two, and you don't understand a shit. You have no clue. No one went to vote in Great Britain because they thought this will really straighten our economy. They did it because they wanted to close their borders. They did it because they wanted to control the migration. They did it so that they could actually make sure to focus and support their people, their culture, their heritage. That's why they did it. And these guys still are like, well, look at these statistics. This would really prove my point. And he just couldn't figure out the problem. And the same thing has been going on in Sweden. The top politicians in Sweden, the top establishment guys, has for year after year been saying that there is no Swedish heritage, there is no Swedish culture, there is no Swedish society, there's nothing special with Sweden. They've even said, our former prime minister said that the only good things about Sweden came from abroad. And we've been saying, like, shut up. You're wrong. You're completely wrong. Because the Swedes, they feel a Swedish identity. They feel special bonds amongst themselves. They feel a special belongingness to other Swedes. And once we can make sure that everyone in the Swedish society feels that kind of belongingness, we will drop in crimes. No one will go out and put a neighbor's car on fire because you feel belongingness to your neighbor. But when we don't have that in our society, people don't have the sentiments to act in a constructive way. And that's the problem in Sweden. We're taking in too many people, being unable to integrate them, being focusing on economic issues and forgetting about our culture and our society. And that's why we're seeing the massive segregation in the Swedish society today. So I think we owe it to our people, to our citizens, to focus on culture and to make sure to preserve it for future generations.
And Paolo, would you like to sort of finish up on this, particularly pertaining to the migrant crisis and how that's pertaining to Italy?
Well, it's a very sensitive issue to Italy because of geopolitical and geographical reasons. We are one of the most exposed European countries to the migration pressure. Well, in Italy at the moment we have regularly 12% of the population coming from other countries, but there is an estimated number of illegal migrants. Notably in my region, Veneto region, in northern east of the part of the country, let's say one of the most rich and developed regions, we are quite happy about the level of migration. We have 11% of people coming from other countries, and they are quite well integrated. But we must take into account other issues. For example, in Italy, the 35% of people jailed are foreign, and it means that well, maybe we don't have a perfect grade of integration, especially in past years. Now they are pretty calm. We had a strong debate about the citizenship, because in Italy, actually, currently we have a quite open model. If your parents come from another country, you will be Italian citizens when you are 18. And left-wing parties are proposing to change the law. Now we have use sanguinis, is called in Latin, and they would like to have use soli. It means if you born in Italy, you are Italian. It doesn't matter if your parents come from other countries. They are on holidays in Italy, and you're born in Italy. You don't speak Italian. You don't know anything about Italian history, anything about Italian culture, but you're Italian. What a wonderful gift! And so we are strongly opposing, because in my opinion, integration is a bilateral process. Okay, the country hosting should be very gentle, should try to put the best condition in order to welcome these people. But if they don't accept our values, our history, our culture, I don't think that it's a concretely operation to be realized. And so, well, I think the most important thing, and I conclude, is to have a strong identity and to be proud of the national culture.
So thank you all so much for appearing on the panel. Let's get a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you.